welcome once again to The Skinny here on WMNF. My name is Ben Montgomery. I am an independent journalist and writer and sometimes boat captain in the Tampa Bay area. I'm joined by my co-host, Ray Roa, who's the executive editor of Creative Loafing and also out of breath because Ray hustled to get in here. Welcome to Community Radio, ladies and gentlemen. Where did you come from this morning, Ray?
Apparently it was very foggy out on the port today, and the Coast Guard delayed a cruise ship that my mother-in-law put us on, so thank you to my mother-in-law for the Christmas cruise. Thank you to all the newsmakers in Tampa Bay. You get internet on there. Thanks, Elon and Starlink, and no one's keeping up, man.
You're kidding. How about that? Never out of reach.
Yes, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, how was the cruise?
Cruises are still pretty much the same. I hadn't been on one in about a decade. There's still a ton of food. Yeah. Mexico's still beautiful. But this time I had my son with me, and it was really cool to all the cliches about having a kid are true, and seeing the world and stuff like that. So it was pretty awesome. Much bigger boat than you're driving, though.
Yeah. Well, much bigger, but glad you had a good time. Thanks for hustling back in here.
Man, I'm so happy to be back here. I love this place.
Yeah, missing is, of course, Mitch Perry with the Florida Phoenix. Mitch is off this week and next week, but he'll be back in the next year. Listen, it's no secret that changes in the news business have meant more layoffs at daily newspapers across the country. The last show spent some time on this topic, and we're going to piggyback on that a little bit. Locally, the Tampa Bay Times recently reduced its payroll by 20%, 60 jobs via buyouts, including some from the newsroom. That's after shutting down its Tampa office nearly a year ago. And it follows layoffs in 23, in 2019, and 2018, and closing the printing press and the plant on 34th Street in 2021. Those problems are they're affecting everybody in the industry, including Creative Loafing. Ray, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, we haven't laid anyone off since the pandemic, but we've also not hired anyone back since our news reporter, Justin Garcia, left for the Times in 23. Our managing editor, Kyla Fields, resigned from full-time to freelancing last May. We haven't filled that position. And that leaves CL with 2 full-time editorial staffers and a small group of freelancers. My publisher and I have also been forced to launch a mechanism for CL to collect tax-deductible large donations, donor-advised funds, things like that, in hopes of hiring a news reporter and A&E editor for a 3-year span. I'm hoping to pay for public records requests, legal fees, and things like that. So that's new, and it supports our commitment and our belief that people shouldn't have to pay or even go through a paywall, much like our guests coming here, to access information that helps them make choices about their lives, hold powerful people accountable, and things like that. So,
yeah. And if we zoom out a little bit, Dan Christensen, writing last week in the Florida Bulldog, kind of put this all into some context for us. He writes, "The long goodbye of Florida newspapers is accelerating, and the once unthinkable vanishing point for the printed edition of one of America's best-known newspapers, the Miami Herald, appears near." Autumn is the time of year when newspapers typically file with the U.S. Postal Service their annual statement of ownership, management, and circulation. And using those numbers, Christensen has reported some shocking statistics. In September, the once mighty Miami Herald, at one point, one of the largest newspapers in the country, certainly even in my lifetime, in the top 5 newspapers in the country in terms of circulation, disclosed that as of August 18th of this year, its total paid circulation had dropped again to a shocking 12,623 subscribers. That's less than 15,000 subscribers to a newspaper that when I started in this business in 2000, upon graduating college in 1999, had a circulation that was almost 500,000 daily subscribers. And that number is now at 12,623. Well, don't those subscribers migrate online? Haven't they switched to digital subscriptions where they're looking at the newspaper online instead of in print? It turns out that's not the case either. The digital numbers have not kept up at anywhere near the rate the falling print subscribers the rate at which the print subscriptions have fallen. The print edition's declining fortunes are best seen through two examples. Christensen writes, in 1998, the Audit Bureau of Circulations reported that the Miami Herald's average circulation was 440,225. That's in 1998, close to what I said. By 2015, circulation had fallen to 88,000. 2016, 76,000. 2018 was 53,000. And then, of course, like I just said, most recent numbers, 12,623 subscribers to the Miami Herald. What is happening at other Florida newspapers? Christensen reports that out as well. In Broward County, the South Florida Sun-Sentinel's statement of ownership, published on September 8th, disclosed its requested or paid average circulation for the year before, that's 2023, was 20,073 subscribers. It's 20,000 people reading the South Florida Sun-Sentinel.
And then over in Orlando, Tribune Media, sister paper, said its statement of ownership that its average print circulation this year was 3,00, which actually sounds like a lot compared to those numbers. But they did not share numbers for their digital subscriptions. And over in Palm Beach, the Post average there 17,000 in circulation, paid electronic copies at 4,867. That pales in comparison to the 2018 number, which was 15,000. And that brings us back home here to the Times, Ben.
Yeah, the Times, which in 2018 was Florida's largest daily newspaper with a reported print circulation of nearly 294,000 print subscribers and just under 4,000 digital subscribers. They didn't provide their current circulation numbers, but rumors across the industry are that the Times have recently suffered a significant collapse in print circulation, similar to other papers in Florida. Very quickly, Naples Daily News, print paid copies, 12,954. The News Press of Fort Myers, 9,850 copies. Tallahassee Democrat, 5,599 paid copies, 1,935 digital subscriptions. Almost every paper in Florida, and
I feel like we're at a funeral.
It is. It feels like a bit of a funeral, right? All of this hurts the community. The way that the journalism is sort of drying up. We are here, though, to talk about some of the people stepping up. Last show was dedicated to a little bit of this, but we want to talk to the folks who are filling that gap, and one of those people is Michael Bishop. Who is a Tampano and the proprietor of Tampa Monitor, which is a blog dedicated to the inner workings of Tampa government, and it's focused on weekly activities of Tampa City Council. Michael, welcome to The Skinny.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
Do you prefer Tampano or another phrase for people from Tampa?
That works for me.
Okay.
Local, native, I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah. You were telling me a little bit about the show, before the show, about how you got started. Will you tell us the story of the origin of the Tampa Monitor?
Yeah, I started volunteering with a group called Code for America during Hurricane Irma that was focused on hurricane preparedness, particularly around shelters. And that led to working with some folks at Red Cross and doing some interaction with FEMA. And once that project was successfully kind of wrapped up, one of the lessons I learned through there was to go where the work is being done, look at local. And so I started watching City Council to kind of see what the lay of the land was. And that kind of led to where I'm at now in just trying to bring awareness to what is happening every week and what is actually being voted on and trying to understand the process more.
When you started paying attention to City Council, there were reporters showing up.
There was a regular beat reporter from Tampa Bay Times that was very active in following the day-to-day kind of week-to-week stuff, and that kind of dropped off last summer.
Was that the Charlie Frago era over there?
When after Charlie left, then there was just a real drastic drop in what was happening within the city on the week-to-week basis. Real major headline stuff would still kind of get a story here or there.
Sure,
but
Olivia George was kind of picking up where Charlie had left off.
And now someone else has picked up the mantle on that, but there's still a lot that happens that kind of slips through the cracks of trying to cover an entire region on a day-to-day basis, week-to-week basis.
How much has your job and what you think you do and from the mission from the day you started to today, does it feel different? Does it feel heavier or anything like that as you move forward? Because if you go to his website, Michael does the due diligence, much like our other guest from City Council does, of digging through this agenda. He's a homework guy. How much do you feel like your job has changed? Does it feel like more of a burden or more of a responsibility now that there is less reporting?
I definitely take the responsibility serious, and especially when I see that certain topics do garner some more attention. I mean, I'm kind of low key right now I don't spend a lot of time pushing it out on various channels. I've just been trying to focus on the tools. It's kind of a passion project, so I need to be efficient in the thing. So I've built some tools to help me parse the agenda into, a little more easier way to post. And I've built some tools to be able to include maps and things like that. And so I've tried to find a balance between maintaining that there's information there every week of what focus is, what's being voted on, and then trying to build some tools around that to kind of augment that information to help folks get more there.
I want to talk to you about one of those tools. You have a land use map on there. Talk to us a little bit about that, how much it gets updated, kind of how you've built that, and what you hope people who visit your site can kind of see. Because sites like yours, kind of what we try to do at the paper, what this station does as a whole, we try to change the way that you look at the world around you, right? In a way, you're doing a lot of placemaking, too. You look at the zoning map, and all of a sudden, you kind of look at the city a little bit differently because you see the hue of color that you've used and stuff like that. So tell us about this map, the coding that you use to create it, and what you hope everyday people are kind of pulling out when they look at it.
Sure. I got into the digital mapping through the hurricane shelter stuff, so I had some background there, and so I've used the same tools there. I use a platform called Mapbox for the underlying technology on that. And the data comes from two sources. The city has a zoning map that is, I update the maps about quarterly because that's where the future land use comes from. That's more of a county, I guess you can probably speak to who the agency is, but the city doesn't maintain that, so they don't have that information anywhere on the city's site. So when people are going before council or if they're watching a land use change and they hear talk about future land use and current zoning, there was nowhere to put all of that together in one place. So I'd put those two together on one map so that you can click on an address and know exactly what the zoning is now, what the future is, and you can kind of flip back and forth and get a better idea to kind of fill in some of those blanks of understanding what those processes are, before you're, as a neighborhood activist, go and be able to, speak on your position.
And when you launched this, did you think of it as a business opportunity, or is it just sort of, this is a form of activism, here's how I help?
I'm a web developer, so that's kind of where I can throw this up on the web and build a tool to kind of, help. And it's kind of evolved from there. And then some of it just came from, instead of ranting on social media, I'm like, oh, hey, I have a blog. I can kind of write this down. And that's kind of where that evolution part has come from.
Yeah.
And
is there a business side to it? Has that grown up? Like, have you solicited advertising, or have you heard from people who are like,
I've looked at advertising, but it's not my primary focus. I've only recently added the ability to do donation type things. I can, there's sponsorships through GitHub on code side of things, or there's a way to buy a coffee kind of a thing. But right now, I've been focused on the time that I have on building tools and getting the information out on a weekly basis.
Speaking of tools, let me just bring this up for a second, because I became aware not long ago of something called Citizen Portal AI, and I just bring it up because it's on my radar. The motto is the pulse of government in your hands, and essentially what this does is it uses AI to scroll through live recordings of all of the city council meetings, whichever they're on, let's say Tampa City Council. So the AI will watch the video for you, essentially, transcribe the video, assign the transcription to particular people, and then make it searchable for users. So if you're curious if City Council, let's say Tampa City Council had a 4-hour meeting, and you're curious only about one item, well, you would then be able to use this to skip through the whole meeting and just focus on that one item. So you could watch the clip from that meeting, or you could just read the transcript. And then they're also using tools to kind of pull out those newsier items to kind of generate a briefing. So if you're just interested not in watching the whole 4 hours of the meeting, but you want to get a sense of exactly what happened in bullet points in short form, well, it'll do that for you as well. And this is all a subscription-based service, and it's interesting because you mentioned tools, and I think like tech is kind of a little behind in terms of developing tools that let us stay on top of these kinds of things, but it might be catching up.
For sure. And related to that, there's a site, civic.band, and it's a developer on the West Coast that's primarily started with California, but he's because the agendas are all open information publics, and so he's built tools that have started pulling that into a database, and he's working on a current tool that you'd be able to subscribe to a keyword search. So if you're only interested in a particular project in your town, you'd be able to subscribe to that. And then as he pulls in the agenda and then parses that into text, you'd be able to see, agenda item 5 is about bike lanes, and you'd be able to subscribe to bike lanes for your city and get notifications for that. And that's something folks have asked me about. How do I find out just when this one thing I'm interested in?
Yeah.
And this is kind of that way. But he's building this on basically a national level.
Yeah.
Any city would be able to have, all that information is public. He's pulling it in, and then anybody would be able to subscribe. Likewise, from a journalist, you'd be able to look across 10 cities in your state and look for threads in certain topics and be able to then follow that from a broader standpoint there.
Yeah, fascinating.
By the way, if you're just joining us, our guest in the first half here in the studio is Michael Bishop. He runs a website called Tampa Monitor, where he keeps an eye on all things Tampa City Council. We're talking about the decline of local news and the people who are filling in the gaps for the journalists out there. Michael, you mentioned you have a method for people to buy you a coffee. I think people who work at the city have bought you have used that link to buy you a coffee. Talk about your relationship with the city, and how do you feel that the city of Tampa does as far as making public records available and tools available for people like you, people who are interested in the goings-on of the city of Tampa?
Public records isn't something that I've really delved into a lot, but I have been pushing and have had good experience about the conversations about open data and advocating for if it's open data, it should be available in at least some kind of like machine readable format that then could be parsed by someone like me, pulling things in, whether it's something as simple as a calendar feed that the city has a great calendar. I was like, but there's no way to subscribe to this. So I built a tool that you could add it to your, an iCal feed. This morning, the city let me know that they thought it was such a good idea. They've adopted it and launched it themselves on the city site using the data that I had originally asked about. So those are the kinds of like small scale things that are positive in moving that direction and give me a positive feeling about how we can keep moving forward on those. I know that there was an initiative over some open data that the city is part of a pilot program that was announced earlier in the year, so I'm looking forward to seeing
how SIRE offshoot, I think.
Well, this was something different. I think that was through Bloomberg Cities. That was a pilot program that the city announced that we were going to be a part of. That would be a big portal of more data. I'm looking forward to seeing what that is. But my experience so far, my communications with the Tech and Innovation Department have been really positive on that. So I definitely think that's something that we can look forward to some of that. And cutting some of the red tape and getting that information to the people they need it, whether it's fire unions looking for data or whether it's people just looking to find out more about rezonings.
And when you say tech and data, next year the budget's going to come up. Where are these departments? Tell us. You don't have to say who these people are, but where is this information and these mechanisms coming from within the city, so that if somebody hears something in city council, they're like, hey, do we need to cut the budget in this particular department? It sounds like this department is very helpful to the job that you're trying to do and potentially making a lot of data available to folks who need it. Where does that come out of? Do you know?
The department itself?
Yeah.
That's the Technology and Innovation Department.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
And they're broad. I mean, they cover everything from the radio communications to web to hardware to data servers. So it's a very, very broad department. So there's various people working on things, and sometimes that information crosses through multiple other agencies that they're kind of managing. So that's sometimes where that red tape, and not having somebody who's working across multiple departments might miss some of those things. But I think that my experience and what I've seen, the evolution, there's been improvement in those types of things.
And what about your insight into what's happening at City Council? You've pretty much kind of kept that. We don't see a lot of it, right? A lot of what you think doesn't float up, but sometimes you do point out something that's interesting in the agenda. How do you balance that as a Tampano and somebody who cares about where you live, and then this hard work that you're doing, trying to keep it objective? Is that something that you think about as you do this work for Tampa Monitor, or is it something that because I know that as a reporter, you've brought a lot of things to my attention. You'd be like, hey, you totally missed this in this agenda or this and that. Maybe you should look into this because you're seeing it and maybe we're overlooking it in the rush of everything. How do you balance a little bit of that, like your activism and your care for the city with the work that you do?
That's been difficult because I'm not a journalist by profession, so I don't really come from with an objective mindset, but I do try to make sure that it's not a ranting blog. My goal is to bring awareness to what's being voted on, and I question more processes than I do opinions in a lot of cases. And those are the things that I've tried to advocate for, is to follow the process that's there, follow the rules that are there, and if you don't like the rules, change them, but don't make them up as you go. Those are the types of things that I tend to be more ranty about than a decision over a particular project.
Are you a charter nerd? A city charter nerd?
I guess you would say. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's, there's a charter for a reason. So, as on the broader scale, as we get away from following those types of things, I think it's important, at least we try to hang on to it at the local level. So those are definitely like something that I'm concerned about.
Yeah, it's interesting that, with the splintering, if you will, of like local news, as it becomes more independent maybe. And listeners should know that we had tried to get on as a guest Sebastian De Leon. I'm forgetting his last name.
Sebastian De Leon.
He started the San Pedro Gazette, covering St. Pete mostly. But as an independent news operator, and there are quite a few others.
There's a Gulfport Gabber.
And that's been around. That's got a print copy as well. But I'm thinking of the school district blog or website that was breaking some news within the past few weeks about the superintendent's travel.
Right. It's another version of a watchdog blog. Michael Rash, I think. Maybe
what's interesting is But each of these things has an identity, right? It's got a person or people behind it, and sometimes it's hard to figure out who that is as just a consumer. Like, who is behind this link? It's removed the sort of stability of like, oh, this is from the Tampa Bay Times and can be trusted, to like the first step as a news consumer is figuring out who wrote the thing that I'm reading,
Right.
Where is it coming from? Does this person have an axe to grind?
Yeah, and I think as we get this call teed up here, it looks like somebody wants to talk to you, Michael. I think Michael's made himself very much available, back on Twitter. Rest in peace. I don't know if you're still there.
No,
but I know you're on Blue Sky now. I
logged into Twitter in over 9 months.
Same, man, same.
Okay.
I'm Blue Sky all the way.
And he's very transparent on there. I mean, I think there's a picture of you.
I've been online and doing web stuff for 20 years now. So I'm open about,
Yeah. Let's get this call. David, you're on the air. Hi.
Oh, hi. I just wanted to talk real quick about Tampa Bay Times. Are y'all still on that?
Yeah, go for it.
We are, absolutely.
Oh, cool. Well, I've been subscribing online for a while now, but I'm kind of thinking about ending my subscription because I notice it's getting kind of expensive. It's like $30 a month now, which I think is a little bit high. And also, I've noticed that there's less original writing in there. It seems like they're putting in more national and St. Pete Catalyst and other sources, because I think the newsroom has been diminished so much.
Yeah.
One thing I would like to suggest, if there's any Times folks listening, I really like, with like the Washington Post and New York Times, how you can share a story to a friend, and but you're limited to like maybe 10 stories a month.
Gift articles.
But if you
gift articles.
Share a story and let other people who are not subscribing read it, but decide, well, this is worthwhile because Times is still a good newspaper.
Yeah.
I think it would be a good business decision to do something like that.
Yeah, it's true. It is difficult to share Times stories with non-Times subscribers. They're not going to be able to get past that paywall sometimes, and so. Anyways, big challenge. That's not the only challenge the news industry has, and I've long wondered if it's not the case that they're just sort of in this slow process of like liquidating what's left of the community loyalty. Like, how little can we give people and have them still subscribe for as long as possible? And so sad to me as a person who tried really hard to save daily newspapers for a long time, and in fact ran a blog called Gangray.com, which subtitle was Prolonging the Slow Death of Newspapers. We all thought that narrative journalism was going to do it, that giving people
turns out
more,
people just want
less.
TikTok reels.
TikTok reels is the way to go, I guess. Anyways,
David, thank you so much for the call.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, David, and good points.
Sure.
And we thank Michael for joining us. We're gonna pivot now, but not before we dismiss
Michael. Please feel free to hang out too. I know that yesterday. In your last rundown of Tampa City Council, something that you didn't really touch actually was this MOU, this Memorandum of Understanding between HART and the city of Tampa. And in a 4-3 vote yesterday, Tampa City Council narrowly voted to allocate $1.65 million to make Hillsborough Area Regional Transit Authority's Route 1 free to ride for an entire year. The free service is expected to start on January 5th and last until January 4, 2026. It will also include more frequent stops along Route 1 from every 20 minutes to every 15 minutes. The last piece to making that fare free rides thing official was a signature from Tampa Mayor Jane Castor. There was a press conference about 90 minutes ago. It started. It was on the
you were
corner
still on the boat.
I was still there. I was trying to see it from the boat there. But the corner of Whiting Street and Franklin Street was not visible because of all the Sparkman Wharf, all the burger smoke. And I think we might have an update from that press conference from some folks who were at the podium today. Councilwoman Lynn Hurtak,
regular guest on the program.
Regular guest on the show, is here. I'm glad to see her not in the context of the hurricane.
Same.
And so is Justin Willits from HART. Please introduce yourselves and say hello to your listeners. And can you tell us what happened an hour ago?
Well, thank you for having me. And I just want to say, before we switch topics, that Michael Bishop has been doing amazing work following council and making it more understandable. And I like to sort of copy what Michael does, whereas anything I'm reading to prep for a meeting, I will only look at public available documents. I won't look at my city email. We'll only look at documents. And I can't tell you how many times we found documents that weren't available, and then we were able to make them available. So I just want to, and that comes from the desire to make sure that news or that public documents are available.
Yeah.
And it's really important. So I just want to say thank you again to Michael for his great work. And it's incredibly necessary, as we don't have folks that cover City Hall much anymore.
100% agree.
But 90 minutes ago, we did a little kickoff for the new Route 1 fare-free pilot, and I am unbelievably excited about it. And I will quickly tell you how this came to be. We'd been talking about the cost for Route 1 and the BRT for quite a while. So I had a number in my head of about $1.5 million. And in the city's budget, when we got under our parking study, because this is all parking money that can only be spent on any type of transportation, was $1.5 million for EV charging stations in public parking garages. And that just seemed like a lot of money for something that would be minimally used by a very...
Tesla trucks?
Yeah, probably, possibly. If they could fit in the garage.
My son
I don't know
calls
about
them
that.
peculiar-looking cars. That's what he calls them.
But yeah, I mean, is there really $1.5 million worth of demand for that? And should we be the ones filling that demand, knowing that EV charging stations are, knowing the difficulty in the maintenance and the cost of that? I'm happy to partner with somebody who wants to do that for us, but should we be taking that on? And I thought, we could do something better with $1.5 million. And so immediately when thinking about parking, transit, that Route 1 was in my head. And so I thought, well, let's try this. And so I mentioned it to City Council, and I got some okay reactions. And then I actually went ahead and proposed it, and it passed within the city's budget. So it's actually $1.65 million, because we also have to include paratransit in that. Whenever you make a route, whenever you the fare has to match, and I'm sure our other guests can talk about that.
Yes, our other guest, Justin Willits, the Director of Planning and Scheduling for Hillsborough's Regional Transit Authority. It's going to be your job to make sure this bus runs the right way, Justin. How did this... Talk to me about when you first heard this from the councilwoman and the road to get here, and how you feel today. First up, did the mayor, are we good? Do we know?
Still waiting on a signature.
Yeah, I think council approves, and the mayor should sign it.
Okay, and I will say, our reporter Leah Foreman yesterday, or 2 days ago, spoke with somebody from the city on background, and the understanding was that I think the mayor wanted to have a little bit more research on it from the original proposal, but all indications say that it will move forward. We haven't seen that yet, but I just wanted to say that that's what the city told us here at Creative Loafing. So tell us about this, Justin. What's going on with this thing? How's this going to work?
Well, one of the first things I started back at HART, it's my second time at HART. I started there about a year and a half ago, and one of the first things we heard from our board after the FDOT governance study that the legislature kind of mandated FDOT do, identified some things at HART, mostly that were critically underfunded, and we run a good operation, that sort of thing. So our board asked if we were doing everything we could do in the community to find partnerships and funding. So, beyond planning, some of what I do is to try to find additional funding in the community, right? So the mayor and her administration gave us the green light that they would match a circulator fund, which would be the interim streetcar extension back to Ybor. So they provided us with a letter of commitment, and we submitted that application. But beyond that, there wasn't really much interest in doing anything on the bus side. So, we were very public about wanting to find more funds from the city. We put together some applications for CRA funding and various different types of services. And the councilwoman here kind of came up with her little idea of what we could do on this strategic corridor, right? This is the bus rapid transit corridor. We've done a lot of planning work in that regard. FDOT has funded a lot of that work, and we'd like to move in that direction. But one of the things we know we need is higher ridership.
What people don't know what that is. What is Bus Rapid Transit Corridor?
Yeah, it's basically a way to deliver a rail-like service in a dedicated bus lane so that you're not sitting in traffic like everybody else and stopping every quarter mile like a regular bus. The stations are spread out, so the travel time, the speed is faster. So there's a lot of
St.
places
Petersburg
in the world.
Has one.
Right.
The Sunrunner.
And St. Pete is a great example. And this corridor, I would argue, would perform even better than the Sunrunner does. It's got higher ridership. It's got a lot more potential, in my opinion.
Better than St. Pete.
It's no small town council people
that.
To be worried about the people riding the Sunrunner as well. There was a little pushback yesterday. Council members Henderson and Carlson took issue with the city funding a HART initiative. Carlson's quote, "The vote today is not whether we're pro-transit or against transit. It's which agency should do it, which agency is authorized and has the responsibility to do it. And that clearly is HART because it was moved out of the city 4 years ago." Henderson claimed that there wasn't a specific study to determine the need for those free fares on Route 1. But there are some statistics about Route 1. Can we share those off the top of your head if you can pull them out?
Yeah, sure. So about 3,500 trips a day on a weekday are taken on Route 1. We suspect that to grow to over 4,000 as part of this pilot, hopefully beyond that. We hope that it's faster service because it's going to speed up. People aren't going to have to pay, and it's a little clunky when you get on the bus. You're going to use cash, you're going to pay with a card. So it'll speed that up. And really, it's just a great way to promote, like if we would have thought this wasn't a great idea, then we would have had to push back on the councilwoman. Mm-hmm. But we talked about it at HART, and we said this is a really solid idea. It's a partnership with the city. Maybe it could lead to something greater in the future. We need more funding. This is the only thing really on the table right now from our local government partners. And people, it's a great route, and it's a great way to promote a service that's already really good in a region that doesn't have a lot of great corridors for bus service, right?
And so I totally disagree with my fellow council members on it. One, because as Justin said, we do have studies about the BRT, which is basically the Route 1 corridor. And it is our responsibility. It is our responsibility to fund roads and transportation in the city. We do it right now with cars. We don't do it, and we're doing it more with bicycles and pedestrians. But what we aren't doing is working on transportation, and it's going to have to be a partnership. There's no way that HART is going to be able to do it alone, and they shouldn't, because we have to work together. We know what works for our citizens. They are looking at it from their perspective, and I think coming together, if we don't work together as agencies, and we're going to be doing overlapping items, and then we just don't need to do that.
And if you're just joining us right now, our guest on the Skinny today, or the second half of the Skinny, that is, at large, District 3, Councilwoman Lynn Hurtak, and also the Director of Planning and Scheduling at Hillsborough's Regional Transit Authority, HART, Justin Willits. We're discussing Route 1, going to be free for a year. And I think we have a phone call.
Let's go to Mike in Sarasota. Mike, you're on the Skinny, WMNF.
Sarasota, home of the Scat Line.
Hey, well, thank you very much for taking my call. Let me say this. I'm the Executive Director of Florida Walks and Bikes.
Hey.
And as a general rule, we oppose dedicated lanes for bus rapid transit. And it's just because of the simple idea of general traffic efficiency. A lane of traffic can usually handle about 25,000 cars a day. And to take away a whole lane off a busy highway and just dedicate it to buses is usually a poor trade-off. It hurts more people than it helps. Although, the idea is theoretically eventually people will get on mass transit and it'll help them years down the future. But in the present, it's certainly a bad choice. Now, that's one opinion. The other opinion I'd like to offer is dedicated to what was said earlier in the show about the readership of newspapers.
Yes, sir.
And I saw a graph the other day from the Washington Post, which said that the people reading the morning paper or reading the paper every day has declined from somewhere in the 60% in the 1970s and down to somewhere in the 20% in the modern age. And I just referring to that, I would like to offer this anecdote. I have recently made over $10,000 by using information that I have found in the newspaper, information I would not have found anywhere else. So I think that something that needs to be done with papers is they need to find some way to make offer something valuable to people.
Right.
And I know they're already trying, but
for the longest time, it was the classified advertising, right? I mean, you went to the classifieds for a purpose. You bought and sold things in the community through the paper. And when Craigslist made that obsolete, that big, it used to be a huge section of the paper. It was like, anyways. Stay
on the line here, Mike, because we have HART.
Also, I happen to know that Mr. Willits is quite a bicyclist. I see him riding all over Tampa on his bicycle. So, and I also know that he had some affiliation, at least, with Bike Walk Tampa Bay back in the day. I wonder how you would respond to the bike versus bus lane. Does that hurt? Yeah. Does that make it worse for bicyclists?
No, absolutely not. So this corridor actually. So DOT has acknowledged that this is a future BRT corridor, and they've done parallel investment for slower speed roads like Central and Ola. So there's parallel facilities that are much more comfortable. So a lot of the bike lanes we have are not comfortable for most people, right? I'm in a rare breed, right, that will bike in a bike lane. But to your point about lane repurposing, like that's what it's called, right? So we've got a roadway network that was overbuilt and now is starting to fill up with cars, right? But the Florida Avenue and the Tampa Street corridor, much of that corridor does not do the volume of traffic that he's suggesting it can, right? So it's underperforming from a traffic perspective. So it makes some sense to dedicate that to transit to make it faster and more appealing. And it actually probably makes it safer too. If you look at the Sunrunner statistics on those corridors, the crashes have gone down, I think, somewhere in the range of 30 to 40%.
Wow.
So this is a transit project. It can be a safety project, and it can make it more desirable to take the bus.
Mike?
If I may respond, your guest is offering all sorts of unsupported assertions.
There are studies out there on Sunrunner, sir. I will gladly send them.
I did not interrupt you. Please do not interrupt me, sir. Send me that courtesy. He says that the road system was overbuilt. That's an opinion. And so let me offer this. I'll give you a real example. From the Ringling Bridge in Sarasota, we used to have a 5-foot inner shoulder, and we had about a 12-foot outer shoulder. And then what they did, they now put a dedicated lane for the local bus. And in so doing, they had to eliminate the inner shoulder. It's now a 2-foot inner shoulder. And we have a bike lane and a bus lane on the other side. What this has meant in terms of emergencies is that if the road if there was a hurricane or something like that, we had essentially 4 lanes of traffic on that bridge that could be used. Now we're down to 3. And one of the problems when you take away road space, and I will refer to this, is Paradise, California. They did something like this. They took away laneage for cars, and they had 85 people who are roasted alive in their cars when forest fires hit them. So you have to think about peak demand, and especially about emergency evacuation here in Sarasota, here in Florida.
Okay, Mike, thank you for the call. And Justin, I would go back to you. And by the way, I should correct myself. The Sarasota County bus line is no longer called SCAD. I think it's called Breeze now.
Yeah.
Is there anything to say to that? And it's 2 different transit agencies, obviously, 2 different communities.
Yeah, I don't want to speak to the specifics of Sarasota, but
right.
As far as my knowledge of the Florida Avenue corridor, I stand by the previous comment.
And actually, I brought that up, I believe, yesterday in one of when we're looking at emergency evacuation. Actually, yeah, it was yesterday during my or Wednesday during a Livable Roadways Committee. I serve on the TPO and I serve on one of the committees as the chair. And just talking about when we're talking about evacuation, we need to start talking about changing lanes from both directions to one direction. If you want to expand, that's a very simple way to do it, and it's incredibly cheap, and we just don't do that. These last 2 hurricanes showed that we had traffic going north on Florida Avenue and only 2 lanes, and the other 2 lanes were completely empty. And there's just no reason for that. So if we want to talk about evacuation, we need to talk about repurposing the lanes we already have, because the issue is, in the city of Tampa, we cannot expand the lanes in our city. If we expand the lanes, we're getting rid of small business. That's it. Mm-hmm. And if you want to get rid of small business, good luck with the community and supporting that.
Yeah.
And so what's our other avenue? And so really, the goal for me in this project is multi-pronged. One is obviously we want to provide working Tampeños who rely on the bus a break. This ties with housing, affordable housing, and transit. There was a recent study that showed that people spend 50% of their take-home pay on both transit and affordable housing.
Transportation,
sorry, yes. And so it's a $2 fare. You $2 to work, $2 home. That's $4 a day. That's $20 a day, or 20 days in a month that you're doing that. That's $80.
Yeah.
That is an entire grocery shop. That is a child's visit to a doctor. That is untold amount of things. And that money that we're saving those Tampeños will go into the community and be spent. It's an economic development driver. So that's one. Number 2 is exactly that. The idea that getting more people on the bus to show them how it works is of benefit.
Yeah.
But really, a goal I have is if we can get people that live in the outer rings of downtown to start taking the bus into work downtown, you're freeing that roadway space for the cars of folks who live too far out to use transit.
Yeah.
And
so real quick, and we got a text about this, but let's identify Route 1. Starts where, ends where. Take us on that journey.
Sure. And then I'd like to tie this into the growth and the traffic issues we're experiencing after this. So it goes from the University Area Transit Center down Fletcher to Florida Avenue, and then
we're going
the way
south now. I'm sorry.
Okay,
Starts
from
University
north, from north to south.
Yeah.
So the University Area Transit Center,
Near
just off of
USF.
Fletcher. Correct.
Yeah.
Right next to the VA.
Yeah.
All that. Down Fletcher to Florida Avenue, and then from Fletcher and Florida all the way downtown to
Straight
Whiting
south.
Street streetcar station. So everybody out there, this is what we want you to do this year. We want you to go get on the bus and take it downtown, whether it's for work, whether it's for coffee, whether it's to go to a Lightning game. It connects straight to the streetcar. It's every 15 minutes from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. And it's pretty much 30 minutes outside of that, 30 minutes on the weekend. But it is a phenomenal service. You can get, if you're from, I think you're in the Heights, right, Ben? Is that right?
Yeah, Seminole Heights.
So you can get downtown in about 20 minutes. You might be on the water or something. I don't know what you're doing.
Hillsborough River.
Yeah. But yeah, so It's a
20 minutes
amazing
downtown
service.
from
about
Sly
20 minutes
and,
from Sly,
Florida.
straight to downtown.
Yeah.
You get right on the streetcar, take it to Water Street, whatever you want to do. But
Yeah.
it's a great.
And is there a
Armature
bathroom on the
Works.
bus?
There is not.
But
No
there is
bathroom.
Wi-Fi.
There's Wi-Fi, and there are USB ports on some of them now. The modern.
What does a
new
trip
buses.
take from the from University Station to?
That's the University of South Florida,
Yeah,
by the way.
yeah.
Tampa campus, right there by the VA. There's a huge Walmart
How long is
over
that
there.
trip?
It's about 40 minutes, depending on if you go from Transit Center all the way to downtown, depending on traffic and time of day, that sort of thing.
And I will counter, you have to walk a little bit to get to the streetcar from MTC, from Marion Transit.
Well, the Route 1 goes all the way to the Whiting Street Station.
Oh, okay.
And then it goes into Marion
Oh,
Transit
okay,
Center.
okay. So even better.
That
is
is
the-
where we had our the kickoff today at Whiting Street.
Okay.
So the streetcar stop is right across the street.
And I did want to keep talking about the hurricane, but since we are talking about the streetcar, and we have about, 8 minutes here, there was a little bit of talk about the streetcar, which recently lost grant funding from FDOT. What's going to happen with that?
I'm committed to finding that funding. We just had a report yesterday about the estimated what we were going to spend in FY23 and then the actuals, and there was a nice amount left over. Now some of that's going to have to go to different things, but do we think we can find the $2 million? Yes, I do believe. We also need to be talking about partnerships with possibly visit Tampa Bay. So a lot of folks use that when they come to conventions. So we really need to be talking to different people who use the streetcar. The CRA already pays for part of it. So what else can we do? But I do believe the council believes strongly that the city should be paying for it. And I agree, but you can't believe the city needs to be paying for the streetcar and doesn't need to have anything to do with the bus. That is something I don't understand. That's cognitive dissonance that I don't get.
I'm sorry, did I miss this? What's the status of the streetcar now? Is it
Lost funding?
No, it's just for the rider. Can I get on for free?
Yes.
I
And
can
people
go-
are trained to do so.
Yeah.
I mean,
Correct.
I ride that thing. My kid loves it. And we use it to get from my office to Ybor City. He used to love eating boiled peanuts at Zydeco. Like, it's his thing. And you watch people, they are just used to coming on, coming off. They know when to pull the bell. They know the stops. It's actually pretty remarkable. And the only thing I ever wanted more was maybe there could be a faster one.
Maybe it could go all the way to Seminole Heights.
But that's exactly what this is meant to do, to get people who wouldn't normally try transit to do that, to just hop on and hop off. So I live north of Hillsborough. I can now hop on the bus to go to the Independent and have a drink. Normally I'd walk, but I can hop the bus. So just little things like that to get people.
In the summer, you don't want to walk to the
you want to
Independent.
go to the Y because the Y is about to undergo construction. One of their parking lots is going to be completely packed. How do you get to the Y? You hop the bus.
Yeah. Bubba writes in, just to clarify, you're talking about Florida Ave route, not the Nebraska Ave route.
Correct.
Yeah.
Route 1, which is Florida to Fletcher. Route the 400 is the rapid transit on Nebraska.
And
Okay.
is there an indication, he asks, if the free fares on the streetcar were successful? Like, can you tell in terms of ridership?
Yeah, absolutely. So that grant that FDOT had that started 5 years ago. It was a 3-year grant. FDOT extended it twice. We've all known for 5 years that match from FDOT would go away.
Yeah.
But yes, it was about $300,000, and that grant helped fund more service and free service. So it subsidized the fares that used to be part of the budgeting process. So that's how it works. And that has gone from about $300,000 to $1.3 million.
And by more service, I think Justin means, more trains late at night. You don't have to wait because the train's not full. Things like that. Increased service during concerts.
15 minutes all day.
Things like that.
Sometimes faster.
And just a reminder really quickly, for the listeners, you're listening to The Skinny on WMNF. I'm Ben Montgomery with co-host Ray Roa, and we're talking with Councilwoman Lynn Hertak and somebody named Justin Willits, Regional Director of Planning for Hart.
Let me ask you something about the hurricane.
Talking about free bus routes down Route 1. So on Route 1, go ahead. Sorry.
So you mentioned the hurricanes, kind of your eye-opening after you saw people evacuating. But also, Hart was free to ride for a few weeks after the hurricane.
Right.
There was a little bit of an increase. I think it was 9.5%. Can you talk about what that meant for you? Was it surprising for anybody here in the room? And what kind of numbers do we need to see in 2025 to support Route 1 perhaps, becoming BRT or staying free? Is that possible?
So my favorite story about this is that the Friday, so 2 weeks of fare free. It ended on a Sunday. I got on the Friday. I was downtown for a convention. I stopped at Palm Ave to go to Sprouts to pick up some groceries. Got back on the bus. This is 12:30 on a Friday. There was no place for me to sit.
Imagine that.
So
It's probably made Justin very happy.
and I texted him on my way home and he's like, send me photos, but I was already off the bus. But the idea of, yes, 9.5% increase when normally after a hurricane they see a decrease is phenomenal. And your weekend numbers were even better.
I can speak just anecdotally. I rode a little bit on the what is it called? It's a trolley-shaped bus on the beaches.
Jolly Trolley.
Boy, and that was right after they reopened the bridges to get back over there is when I took a walk for Ray. People were so thankful that thing was running. I heard every person who got on was, thank God this exists, and they were just trying to get away. But yeah, there's like this outpouring of community support for public transit in this time of great need.
Right. And in the midst of this affordability crisis, transit is one of the best tools we have, right?
Yeah.
And when you talk about the growth we're experiencing, right, the traffic, I hate to say this on the air, but it's never getting better. We can only keep it from getting worse faster.
Laughs.
And we have to do that with transit service on these major corridors.
You mean we can't
the
build more
construction
roads
is
and
not all this construction on 275?
We're going to live through 5 years of construction, and then there will be saturated in 3 years.
Yeah.
So tell me, what are you hoping to see as far as ridership goes? Do you know what will be successful as far as this program goes a year from today?
So yeah, we think we'll get over 4,000 trips a day on the route, probably more. If we hit 5, I will be happy. If we hit 6, I will be thrilled. But we expect it to do really well. We want to see faster travel times because people aren't, we call it dwell time at a stop, right? There's going to be less dwell time because people are just getting on and getting off, just like the streetcar. That's one of the big things that benefits the streetcar. Is it was very slow boarding, every single pay. Now we're just like, get on, get off, keep it moving. And that's the real benefit on the operations side because I want to deliver great, fast transit, and this helps us deliver better
as
service.
a guy who doesn't ride the bus all the time, I did not long ago, maybe 6 months ago, and I got on and felt foolish because I didn't have change. I thought I could pay with the credit card. And
now you
said,
can.
Now you can.
Well, yeah. Anyways, this eliminates that if it's free. Is that bus going to be branded somehow? I just, before I forget this question, will it be
the fare
like
box
have a
will be
wrap
covered.
that'll say like free on the side
It'll
or
say free
something?
right on the head sign. It'll say free Heart Route 1
Okay,
for the
but
year.
if that bus is
and
on
every
Florida
bus stop
Ave,
sign,
it's
going
free.
to say that too.
Well, the Route 1, because other
just Route
buses
1.
do travel.
Okay.
But what they have a new little sign, and you'll see it in some of the media coverage today, where
Flamingo fares.
No, it's just this little sign that basically says Route 1 fare free through, and that has the date. But for me, what I will find successful is my goal from this is to get more Tampeños to try the bus. And so just to me, it will be successful if we don't just have additional ridership on Route 1, but additional ridership throughout the transit corridors, because Tampeños, by and large, just don't know how to ride the bus. And so this is the entryway to getting people comfortable with transit, especially in the urban core, so we can leave the driving to people coming into the city.
Yeah.
This is only one small way, but it's the way that's available to us right now.
District 3 at large, Tampa City Councilwoman Lynn Hertag, thank you for joining us today on The Skinny. Justin Willis, Director of Planning and Scheduling for HART. And at the top half of the show, Michael Bishop, who runs Tampa Monitor, for all of his fellow Tampaños. Thank you so much for joining us on The Skinny. Today, my name is Ray Rowe. On behalf of Ben Montgomery, on the other mic, Skip Sassy on the boards. Irene Matthews, thank you for handling the phone today. Thank you so much for listening to WMNF Tampa. I believe I see Joellen Schilke, the hostess who loves you the most, is ready with art in your ear to cleanse your palate of all this good news with good music and stories about art. We'll see you next week.
See you on the bus.
And I'll see you on the bus.
Absolutely.
I am taking that thing.
Me
I used to
too.
take that thing
Whoop, whoop.
every day
This
for about
starts
a year
now.
and a
When
half.
does it start?
It starts January 4th.
January 5th.
January 5th.
Sunday.
See you on the bus.
See ya on the bus.
WMNF Tampa.